Okay, well, thanks a lot for being here. And I'm going to talk about the tale of two restless volcanoes and their teachings, what they've taught us. And actually going back and looking at volcanoes in the past. I'm going to do good. Anyway, this is going to be the eruption of Cotopaxi in 2015, and then some unrest we have at another volcano called Chiles up to the northern border. And it's very interesting to look at these because they've taught us a lot. And Ecuador is a country of great biological diversity. We have over 90 to 100 volcanoes, of which 40 are potentially active. We export a lot of raw products like bananas, cacao, roses, oil, shrimps, some of the best shrimps in the world. And what do you do when you have so many volcanoes that have from basalts to rhyolites? Well, anyway, the Instituto Geofísico has been monitoring these volcanoes starting in 1983, and we monitor about 20 volcanoes, as well as all the tectonic activity. Cotopaxi's activity in 2015 was probably the most rigorous training any of us have ever had. It was challenging because the volcano could affect about 1 million inhabitants, and the giant lahars that could result. And this is the seismic activity, a plot of the seismic activity. We can see that it started out low in March of 2015 and then ramped up and finally had a Friada magmatic eruption in August of 2015. This seismic activity was certainly a very clear sign of unrest, starting with emissions and then going to VTs and then finally volcano, a very long period events and so forth, and then also explosions. So the GPS was almost synchronous with this. The start of the GPS activity, deformation, was almost synchronous with the seismic signals. And you can see in the pink area there is where we had on the up component, for instance, going up and then also going to the west. And looking at the INSAR in the top diagram, you can see that the gray is the GPS and the red is the INSAR. There's very close proximity between the two trends of the two, and they also go on with the same plots of the seismicity. Most of the INSAR was established to be on the west, southwest side of the volcano, which is about the same area where there's actually still a mild INSAR signal. The total amount of volume would have been about 6 million cubic meters if it was to have come out, and these are the plots of the monthly horizontal and vertical displacements between March and October 2015. And those have basically subsided. The strongest GPS component, the up component, was actually during the same time when we had the seismic energy, which is the red plot, the broken line, and that basically died back by October of 2015. So during that time, there was a tremendous demand by authorities, by ministers, by presidents, and we had to give over 100 talks and also go out in the field many, many times and look after all the instrumentation. So it was really quite challenging. The other volcano that has not erupted actually in about 15,000 years is a volcano to the north. There it is to the north. It's talking to Cotopaxi, which had its ash bloom. And this is a volcano that's right on the Colombian-Ecuadorian border. It had a seismic swarm in 2014. Then it also had a 5.6 magnitude event, and then it's quieted down up until last week. And those are some of the events in the last year, and this is the last month, and this is this week. So it's had a revamping up of activity. This has been published as possibly being the seismic event may have squelched some of the volcanic activity that was happening. And what we see also is that there's been an uptick in the up component of the GPS starting sometime last year. And this you can also see in some of the INSAR. So I think there might be some influence. This is not mapped. This volcano's barely mapped. There's an influence of possibly a caldera to the south. And there's a hydrothermal regime that has a poroelastic medium, which has been possibly affected also by a coastal earthquake that we had. So we see that most of the activities to the south, and maybe some of this area was disturbed by the 7.8 magnitude earthquake we had last year. So this is an interesting site. I would say that Cotopaxi was magmatic. There's Chile's is mostly hydrothermal. There's no sign of magmatism on the surface, while Cotopaxi was all magmatic. And with all this activity, actually volcanologists get very little rest in our neck of the woods. So I will say this is Cotopaxi 2 weeks ago, and they had an uptick in seismic activity. We've got temperatures of 300 degrees in the crater, certainly magmatic. You can see it. That's a thermal camera, and that's it. Thank you very much. I'd also like to say thanks to UNAVCO for your very generous help and support over the years. It's been very gratifying.